Welcome to Mysteries, Monsters, and Mayhem.
I'm Shannon Lawrence.
And I'm MB Partlow.
Quick content warning before we get started. This podcast may contain language and disturbing content, so enter at your own risk.
Hi. Howdy do. I was like, I need something good, and I couldn't think of anything at the last
The
second.
pause.
And she chokes and falls to the ground. That's it. I'll do that next time. Greetings.
Greetings.
In a fun accent.
Greetings, human.
Yes. So.
we were having an entire conversation about yours is weight loss, mine is weight gain these days. So about bra shopping,
and how much we hate it, and bras in general.
Indeed, but also because I stopped wearing them before the pandemic because about a year before the pandemic, I was just done because of fibromyalgia, and I was like, I'm uncomfortable all the time. Why make it worse? And having this constricting thing on me. But then for the last 2 months, I tried to start wearing it again because I was like, I managed when I was a teenager to get used to it, right? I can do that again. I cannot do that again.
Well, and I went from wearing bras to mostly wearing bralettes.
I tried those and I hate them too.
Okay. But they kind of keep your nipples from poking people's eyes out. That's really all they do.
Oh, yes. I tried to get a strapless one. And I was looking like at the bandeau type. And because I tried one and I got it and I put it on and it felt like I was putting on fucking movie armor. And it had like these metal things on the side because, it meant to lift as well. And that's tricky with a strapless. We've
all had those.
And it's just like metal in the side of my boobs. I was like sitting there like, I can't do this. So I got rid of it, but I got the bandeaus. That's something that became very hard to say for me. It sounded wrong when I said it. The bandeaus don't hold anything up. So I put one on and I was like, well, is it no, it did not sequester the nipples. There was no.
And it depends.
There's no point in this.
It depends what they're made out of. I have one that's very good for that. It's just a little. It's not a super thick, but it's thick enough. So, but I went out and bought because I was like, "Fuck, I need new bras now." Because I went down a band size. So, and it's just they're all fucked up. So, so I bought this bra and I was like, so one day I come home and I open my underwear drawer and I look in my drawer and I go, there's nothing in this drawer that an 80-year-old woman would feel uncomfortable wearing. And I just thought that is fucking sad. So I was like, I'm going to buy some cute underwear. So I buy a couple of cute bras. I hate bra shopping because you have to try on 400. It's like jeans. You have to try on 400 to get one that does everything you want it to do.
Right.
I'm glad you can't all see my hand gesture.
We've both been gesturing a lot. There's a lot of boob gesturing happening.
So I get this cute little bra and I happen to wear it the day I went and stood in line with Amy up in Denver to meet Jason Momoa. And we stood in line for, 3 days. But it was like 4 hours. Halfway through, I go, what the fuck? And on the side, the boning, the underwire had broken free and was trying to stab me to death. So I kept kind of tugging it. As soon as we got in the car, this lovely young woman drove us up there. As soon as we got in the car, I think I may have actually done it before I got in the car. You know how women can take the bra off without taking their, you pull it down your arm. And I just went, whoop-ha, and whipped that out. And I still had the receipt and the tag. And I took
good.
I got it at Ross. So I took that fucker back and I held it up and I said, it's trying to kill me. I want my money. And the woman's like, do you have your receipt? Here you go.
You're like, what could I possibly have done to make the underwire murder me already in this?
Yes.
Your bra is faulty.
I mean, I understand someone who knows me wanting to kill me, but I did nothing to this bra except give it a home.
I showed you a kindness, bra.
And in return, what do I get? Death threats. Death threats and distracting me from Jason Momoa.
You're like, I actually met him and I forgot because
because the bra was just that irritating. I tell you, I thought, and of course Amy's like, you could take the bra off now and wave it to get his attention.
Right.
I was like,
was it silky? Or because if it's mauve, then it still might not be effective.
I think it was a cream color. I'm trying to remember. I've bought a couple, so.
A memory popped up on my Facebook. I don't even remember doing this when I was traveling with my mom, and we were at the airport for forever. And
was this the time she had all the knives?
Probably. And I posted, I may or may not have just removed my bra sitting here waiting to get on the flight.
Fair.
You can't prove it. And I was like, damn, I don't even remember doing that. That took mad talent. I got one of the bras I got to try and be comfortable this time. I got it and it didn't have a clasp, so you actually pull it on like an athletic bra, but it's a bra. But it's not an athletic, it's a real bra.
I need a new athletic bra too.
Fuck athletic bras. I never could get those to work either.
No.
Those ones, it's really like you're half flat chested and half they're just all the way up under your chin, like greetings. Which is
my
what I discovered.
Have never said greetings, but
might have recently because I started wearing a bra after years of not wearing one, and all of a sudden I was like, my boobs are in my peripheral vision. I can't not see them. Like, it was actually utterly distracting to me to suddenly. And I was like,
I love this.
Hello, how are you? Like, you already can't forget you have them, but now you really can't. First, they're like, oh. I just stumbled across my boobs.
I went to Torrid and got this thing because it was on sale. It was a what's the word I want? It's a crop top. It's like a sports bra, but it's really a crop top, so it's longer line and has the built-in bra, and that works pretty well. Except getting in and out of it is quite I feel like I need to grease myself to get it on. It is cute when it's on. It's the first time I've worn a crop top since I was like 12.
Yeah, I bought 2 crop tops in the last few months because I was like, fuck it, I'm tired of hating myself.
Yep.
And when it was hot, I would really like to just be wearing this bitch right here.
Yep.
You can meet my scars.
This is my belly.
But that was one of the bandeaus was supposed to be for the crop. It won't work for it because it's the women's clothes. I need soft clothes, but the soft clothes can be so sheer.
Yes.
And so I have to wear the petals, but the bigger petals.
Those are pasties.
Yeah. But those big stick-on shells.
Yep.
But those ones I started because I stopped wearing the bra, but I felt like in a professional setting when I would work at the pie bar as a server, I needed to wear something. So I put on those big shells. And I remember being so slammed one day because I was the only server on and I'm running around and I'm doing the register and getting the food ready. And I just feel one of those puppies sliding. And it was so fluid. I'm so proud. I wish it had been on camera, really. I felt it going, turned around to do something in the back, caught it with one hand as it dropped out the bottom of my shirt, whacked it underneath the cash register into like this open cabinet that was under it, and just kept going. And I was like, yeah, because I had sweated and it had fallen off.
And you know why you could do that? Because you're a mom.
That's right.
Moms can do like 412 things. We can't take off our socks before we get in the shower. I mean, we forget stupid shit, but when it comes to organizing and taking care of shit, just boom, 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 we know how to get it done.
If I'd had slower reflexes, I just imagine standing there and just going plop onto my foot.
Better
and
your
standing
foot
there like
than someone's plate.
Hacky sacking that shit into the cabinet,
or
right?
onto someone's table.
I know. That's the thing. I was because I continued trying to wear them, and again got caught in like a dinner service that time. The first time was a lunch one, and I was out at the table, so I wasn't. And it was like I had my laptop on the back table, luckily, because I was the bookkeeper, not the server. And that one I caught too, luckily, because you just see this very pale
circle
thing sitting on the ground. And caught that one and just chucked it back at my laptop and then went about my stuff. And so it was just sitting on the table next to my laptop until it slowed down enough for me to go put it into the bathroom and put it back on.
There are worse things to have fall than your pasty, though.
Pants?
So this is a whole lot of TMI.
All right.
Once upon a time, They're so my preferred brand of tampon or tampon. I watched part of
Tampons.
Tampon was OB.
Right.
Okay, loved them. They came out with a new kind of OB, and I can't remember what they called it. It was like microfiber something. No problem. I love the brand. I bought some, put one in, went to dinner with Joe and the girls. And after dinner, I stood up and took one step and stopped. And Joe was looking at me and he could tell something's wrong. No idea what, which pretty much describes our marriage. Joe knows something is wrong.
Joe does not know what it is.
Does not know what, but he's there for it. That's the thing. He's there for it. Doesn't care what it is. So he's looking at me and I went, and he's like, so I finally kind of through clenched teeth tell him what the issue is. Cause I'm like, this fucker's going to just slide right. So he goes, do you need me to take the girls so you can go to the ladies' room? I said, no, I didn't bring a spare with me. So I was just going to dinner. It was like it. So yeah, I got home and wrote the OB tampon company a letter. I got an apology.
Uh-huh.
I got coupons. They were just like, I said, what fucking idiot did you put in charge of this? It's like Teflon coating. Why don't you just grease them? I said, yeah. I was pretty descriptive in my letter, and they were appropriate, and they took those off the market.
So you weren't the only one that had a problem with
it. Well, Jesus.
So what you're saying is there was a period of time where there were women who were just walking around dropping tampons.
Yeah.
Tampons everywhere they went. Tampons. Yeah, she did every single time for tampons.
Yes.
That it's from people who aren't sure. It's from We Are the Millers.
We Are the Millers. If you haven't seen it, it's fucking hilarious.
Oh, she's a comedic genius. I love her.
What is her name?
I don't remember.
I can't either, and she's been in so many things. She was in Bad Moms, wasn't she?
Yes.
And oh yeah, she's been in everything. As soon as you see it, you'll go, oh yeah, her.
She's a character actor. She did headline a show, by the way, that was like I don't even remember. It was like a sexual awakening type show for this mom with an older kid or whatever. And I've been meaning to find it to see if there's a new season, but I can't remember what it is. So, Catherine. Nope. I almost had it. It was popping into my head and it went away. But anyway, she's hysterical. But she doesn't usually get to headline.
Right.
But she steals like anything she's in. Like,
yes.
We're the Millers is great. She has the best lines and the best character. Yes,
and she is married to Nick Offerman's character.
Yes.
And he also has... it's a very funny...
They are the best.
They are.
Because they're both so serious in their
and
role.
So earnest.
Yes.
the scene in the tent.
Yeah.
The last time I watched it through the spider bite, and then I had to, and it was on cable, so that was blurred out.
It's inappropriate humor, just for anybody who's wondering.
Excruciatingly.
I absolutely love inappropriate humor, because sometimes it's the only stuff that can get me now. Like, surprise me into a laugh, which I love.
Yes. There's I can't remember his name. There's a comedian now that I just think is tremendously funny. I can't remember his name. I described him to Patrick, and who, of course, then sent me a clip and said, is it this guy? And I'm like, yes!
I know he's good that way.
He's, but the guy was doing one of those lists. So in your 20s, you go out and you do blah, blah, blah. And in your 30s, you go out blah, blah, blah. In your 40s, you go out blah, blah, blah. And I said, that's my problem with these lists. They stop at the 40s. Like, apparently, when you turn 50...
You just don't go out?
God forbid older. You aren't allowed out of the house anymore by yourself. I'm like, no, let's talk about the bitches in their 70s going out and having some... mimosas and
I remember going out dancing in my 20s, and there were two older women just in the middle of all of us dancing, and I loved it.
Yeah.
It's like, look at them. I didn't know I was going to be practically crippled at this point. So I love going out dancing. I don't think I'd survive it right now. We'll see if that gets better. I keep waiting for it to, and it does not.
Should we get
we
started?
Will. So
we'll stop talking about bras now and tampons. To all of our male listeners, this is the education you didn't know you needed.
This one's a rough topic for anybody who's seen The Accused.
Sorry.
You'll know it. It's the story of Cheryl. And here's the thing. I went and I listened to, I was seeking out stories on YouTube to make sure I would pronounce the name right because I don't know Portuguese, and Portuguese is actually more different from Spanish than Italian is.
Oh.
So I don't know if I'm saying it correctly, but every single one of those fucking clips said her name a different way. And none of them were Portuguese, or obviously that's the one I would have gone with. But her name is Cheryl Araujo. J-O.
A-R what?
Araujo. Araujo. That's what I'm saying. I'm just going to say it as Spanishy as I can. We're going to leave it with that. This became known in the press as Big Dan's rape. So, tough topic. I guess we'll kind of have a little vengeance in the second story. In a way, but not directly. On March 6, 1983, in New Bedford, Massachusetts, a 21-year-old woman named Cheryl Araujo, who was Portuguese-American, tucked her 2 little girls into bed and let her boyfriend know she was going to get some cigarettes. And I do point out she's Portuguese-American because it did play heavily into this story for reasons.
Okay.
The convenience store was either closed or didn't have her brand. Different stories said different things. Both of them make sense. So she walked into a local bar called Big Dan's Tavern to hit up the cigarette machine there. And just so that we beat anybody wanting to ask the question, she was wearing jeans and a pink sweater. It was an evening at home. She just wanted cigarettes. She didn't go out to party. She wasn't dressed trampy, as some prick might say.
I've known people who would, if the bar was closer, would go to the bar to get cigarettes.
Right.
They're not there to
if
party.
If they have your brand, you go in, they had vending machines.
Yeah.
So,
do they still have cigarette vending machines?
That's why I was like, I started to say have, then I was like, because they might have gotten rid of those, because let me tell you, as a teenager, that's where I got them.
And you can't smoke in bars anymore, so they may be gone.
Yeah, so probably not.
Okay.
I wonder if they are somewhere. I'm going to look in Mexico. Okay. I wonder if they did in Vegas. We didn't see any in Vegas.
But I wasn't looking.
No. And I don't think it would have stood out to me as crazy because I frequented those suckers. It was a quiet night, so the bar wasn't packed. There were 8 men, a male bartender, and a female waitress, so 10 people total. One of the male customers was passed out drunk. It turned out Cheryl knew the waitress, so she stayed and she chatted and she ordered a 7 and 7. And then she headed back because there were some men playing pool in like kind of this back room, and she went back there into that separate area, and apparently, she did a little light flirting with a guy named Victor Raposo. When she tried to head back to the bar area, Joseph Vieira and Daniel Silva stopped her, forcing her onto the pool table. They removed her jeans and underwear, proceeded to rape her one by one. There were 4 men who took turns: Victor Raposo, John Cordero, Joseph Vieira, and Daniel Silva. 2 men cheered them on, but did not take part in the rape. I have to question whether they would have. Virgilio Medeiros and Jose Medeiros. They were not related, but they did have the last name. Same last name. Cheryl fought, screaming and pleading the whole time. Want to be clear on that. New Bedford at the time was about 60% Portuguese, and it appears everyone involved in the crime was as well. The bartender, Carlos Machado, attempted to call police, but Virgilio Medeiros blocked him from getting to the phone physically and told him to leave it. Machado then attempted to slip change to the one conscious patron, that other man who there was another man that was not involved with any of it, who was not unconscious, to get him to go out to a payphone. And the guy was scared. They were outnumbered. These men were being very violent and rowdy. It sucks. I can't say it wasn't fair for them to be afraid to try to take an action, because the Virgilio was very menacing when Machado tried to make the call.
Right.
I don't know. I don't want to judge him. Part of me is.
That's okay. I'm judging them for you.
Okay. According to Machado, the assault lasted about 35 minutes until Cheryl was able to make a break for it while the men were switching. One was done. The other one was undoing his pants, and that's when nobody was holding her down. So she was able to get out. And that's why I say I wonder if the 2 cheering it on would have
if she had
there been time.
Yeah.
Yes. So I don't put it past him. She made it out of the tavern with several of the men chasing her outside. I'm like, what were they going to do? Were they going to harm her because was the thought, shit, she's going to go tell somebody? Did they,
Or did they just want more?
We'll never know. She jumped out in front of a van that had been driving by. In the van were 3 male college students who were out bar hopping, brothers Dan and Michael O'Neill, and one other man. I didn't see his name. I decided not to look for it because perhaps he did not want it out there. Dan O'Neill described himself as being slouched against the window, They've been drinking and his brother yelled, "Naked girl in the street, naked girl in the street." Because bear in mind, she's wearing a pink sweater and nothing else. Michael had seen her run from the bar wearing only the sweater. They stopped the van and Michael got out, picking up a pipe lying there because he saw the men coming after her. So he picks up this pipe and he said he started to walk toward the bar with the pipe then because they could see she was fucking terrified. And then he was like, well, what am I going to do? Like, what am I doing with
There's
this?
a bunch of big men and I have a pipe.
And so they get her into the van and they drove her to a Rite Aid where they phoned the police. It was just the closest place, but far away from the dudes that were chasing her. And the police showed up to the bar and questioned everyone. Warned what a trial might be like for a rape victim, Cheryl pressed on, saying she wanted the world to be a better place for her daughters. And she would end up paying
for her,
an incredibly steep price for that decision. The crime hit the national news. At first, horrifying people that a group of men could get away with gang raping a woman while bystanders watched it happen and some of them cheered. Anti-immigrant and anti-Portuguese sentiment picked up, and the Portuguese immigrant population came under attack. Cheryl's own community turned on her, not the rapists. Her. They blamed her for what they were going through nationally. People started saying she shouldn't have been out in a bar alone if she didn't want to be raped.
That's fucked up.
They asked how much she'd drunk, how she'd behaved, what she was wearing. Did she lead them on? They said she shouldn't have been out with a boyfriend and children at home. They said she asked for it.
Bullshit.
Yet they do it every fucking time.
They do.
Because of the insane level of public interest, the judge allowed the entire trial to be televised.
Oh,
a rape trial, a gang rape trial, though he forbade cameras from showing her face. He would later express how deeply he regretted this decision and how it had re-victimized her. Too little, too late, but at least he realized it. The prosecutor had argued against televising the case, saying it would discourage other rape victims from coming forward. And I guarantee you it did.
It did.
Cheryl took the stand, and when she was asked to state her name and address, this was televised. Her name and address.
Oh, fuck that.
Nationally broadcast.
No.
Yep. When she was cross-examined, Americans watched the screen, skipping their soap operas for the spectacle. People interviewed on the street expressed excitement at it all. Ratings shot up. And everyone watching at home got to listen to the defense attorney making disgusting accusations against her and making it clear she brought it on herself. He implied that she had asked for it, that she had that she had consented.
Right.
And it had just gotten out of hand, he said.
No.
Public sentiment turned against Cheryl. Not just the Portuguese, everybody else now. A point used against her was that she had said there was a crowd of men cheering it on. The defense attorney asked how many, and she said she thought it sounded like 12 to 16 people. And of course, there were 10 people there. That's why I mentioned that part. It was contradicted, and now she was being called a liar. What do you think it would fucking sound like? Also, it wasn't because they were like, it was only 2 men cheering them on. Okay, but I'm betting the 3 that weren't actively partaking were also cheering. Yes. And when you are being forcibly held down, raped by multiple men, how good do you think you're going to be at counting? Don't you think it might seem like more people and you're not lying, you're traumatized? Yeah,
your sensory perceptions, it's like any kind of trauma.
Yeah, that...
Things get further away, they get louder, you can't hear anything.
Yeah.
Fuck. Who was the judge? Who was the attorney? I would like them to answer.
You would like their names to be said. And I didn't write them down or I would totally out them for that. But... the community rallied behind the attackers, raising $20,000 to bail them out. The 4 main attackers were all convicted of aggravated assault and sentenced to 6 to 12 years. The longest any of them served was 6.5 years. The 2 men cheering it on were tried, with one of them admitting to yelling, "Go for it, go for it." The charge against them was joint enterprise, is what it was called, and it basically means encouraging of a crime.
Okay.
And not stopping the crime, but not actually committing the crime. Both were acquitted for whatever reason.
Ugh.
Probably pretty hard to prove.
Fair.
Cheryl couldn't leave her house without being attacked, screamed at, spit on. The community also turned on the men who had rescued her. To be very clear, they didn't turn on the rapists. They turned on the victim and her rescuers.
The men who drove her to safety.
Yes.
Nice.
10,000 people marched to protest the convictions. 16,000 signed a petition asking for leniency for the rapists. A woman interviewed on the local news said Cheryl, quote, should be punished too. If they raped her, she was the aggravator. I'm sorry to say, but I think it was her, end quote. Death threats came over the radio. Another woman called for Cheryl to be hanged. Another woman interviewed as she marched with protesters protesting the conviction, not the rape, said on camera, quote, they did nothing wrong to her. Her rights are to be at home with her kids and be a good mother, end quote.
Fuck her, too.
Fuck all of them.
Well, yes.
Cheryl and her boyfriend moved their kids to Miami after all was said and done, Florida, to escape the constant attacks. It's, you know what? It could have gone a completely different way. You've seen it repeatedly in movies and fictional accounts based on real accounts. He could have not wanted to still be involved with her.
Yes.
Sounds like he stuck by her. And I don't know his name or anything about him. And I just, again, if that wasn't showing up everywhere, I felt there was a reason for it. Her sister also fled the city because she was being attacked. New Bedford became known as the gang rape capital of the country, with the cartoon featured, well, actually the world, featured in Hustler, made out to look like a postcard of a naked woman on a pool table with the words, greetings from New Bedford, Massachusetts, the Portuguese gang rape capital of the world, written on it. I was like they had any room to talk really about. I'm glad somebody was trying to address the issue. I understand how these cartoons, satire, and such work, but I'm like, really, you? Look in a mirror. Cheryl enrolled in school to become a secretary, but on December 14th, 1986, she lost control of her car and slammed into a utility pole. She died at 25 years old.
Oh, God.
Her daughters who were in the car received injuries but lived. They stated that a white van had run them off the road, which is in the investigation files. The ME found her to be at 3 times the legal blood alcohol level. She had suffered with alcoholism since the assault and subsequent torturous trial, having been in a detox center 6 months in the year previous to the accident, and her demons had chased her down. Whether those demons were simply her intoxication level or someone in a white van will remain a mystery. At first, they had said that when the police first made a statement, they said there's no alcohol or drugs involved. We're investigating as a homicide, was said. Oh. And then when the ME said her blood alcohol level, everything else got dropped. But the 2 girls did say that a white van had run them off the road. They were, yeah. This story, of course, may sound familiar to people if you've seen The Accused. It's what inspired it. They did change some things. It was not a pool table. It was a ping pong table, or not a ping pong, pinball table in the movie.
Okay.
Because they were afraid of getting sued.
I did not see the movie because I knew what
it's really good. It's really intense. It's really hard.
That's why I have not seen it.
And just in case people think things are better these days, because I listened to a YouTube piece on the story, and a guy in the comments, because everybody was like, damn, that was a hard movie to watch in the comments, that was a really good movie. It was really rough. And some guy said, I didn't think it was a rough watch. I found it laughable. So and he had commented on that just a few weeks ago. So Jodie Foster and Kelly McGillis were in the film, and I wanted to look at some things that happened to the 2 of them. The film won Jodie Foster her first Oscar and shook up the nation once more. By the time it came out, by the way, Cheryl was dead. She was dead before the movie was in production. While on tour, Kelly McGillis was asked if she'd ever been the victim of rape. Surprised by the question, unprepared to deal with it, she was open about having been raped by 2 men who accosted her outside her New York apartment door and forced her inside. One was 15 years old and one was 20. The 15-year-old was the more violent and frightening of the 2 and was ultimately convicted for the rape, while the 20-year-old was not due to lack of evidence. This rape was part of her reason for taking on the role of the prosecutor. She had no interest in playing the victim, but playing the woman going after the rapist appealed to her.
I bet it did.
Jodie Foster famously suffered, by the way, when that came out on that tour, she was then mocked and said that she was doing this for attention. That she was open about that for attention. Yeah. Jodie Foster famously suffered a different sort of violation. A man named John Hinckley Jr. became obsessed with her in her role as a child sex worker in the 1976 film Taxi Driver. Hinckley lived in Hollywood and identified with De Niro's character in the film, who attempts to assassinate a senator to save Foster's character. He watched the film over and over and began stalking Jodie Foster. He wrote her letters and even reached her on the phone twice. Both times this started when she was less than 18. She was a minor when this started. And she told this strange man calling, a teenager, that she was not interested. When he found out she was enrolled at Yale in 1980, he enrolled in a writing course so that he could find her on campus. Luckily, it's a little harder than that on a college campus. Hinckley decided that gaining national attention would surely bring her around. So like De Niro's character, he started stalking a politician, Jimmy Carter. He started when Carter was still in office.
Wow.
He got a foot away from him at one event, but failed to pull off an attack. Then he got arrested at an airport on his way to another of Carter's appearances with a gun on him. Mm-hmm. His parents tried to get him mental health help, but on March 30th, 1981, as Hinckley was on his way to visit New Haven to try and woo Jody again, he noticed Reagan was giving a talk nearby. They had both ended up by chance in Washington, D.C. at the same time, as this is where Hinckley's bus had reached, and then he was going to have to get a new bus to finish his journey the next day. Coverage was lax for this event because there was only a short space, and by coverage, I'm talking Secret Service and the rules they usually employed. Because this was a short space in which the president would be unprotected on his way to the limo. There was a whole thing. This location was after Kennedy's assassination. They had built something called, it's like President's Way or something like that. And they had built kind of this covered passageway because it was a place presidents frequently went. And therefore, it said that there were only about 30 feet where he wasn't going to be protected between that entryway and the limo. So no one even had bulletproof vests on that day. Normally they had Reagan put on a bulletproof vest, and even the Secret Service folks, nobody was wearing their vests because they thought 30 feet, no big. Hinckley managed to get right up against the rope put up to separate people from the president, and as a reporter shouted, "Mr. President," to get Reagan's attention, Hinckley knelt into position and fired 6 rapid shots. It said 1.7 seconds.
Wow.
So one bullet hit the press secretary, James Brady, over the left eye, shattering his brain cavity. He had gone to Texas and he had gotten ammunition that had something that made it explosive. So once it hit, it would then explode.
Right.
One hit a D.C. police officer in the neck, bouncing off his spine. The 4th round went through the abdomen of a Secret Service agent who threw himself in front of the president, the bullet ricocheting up through his lung, diaphragm, and liver. 2 of the bullets went into windows, one on the limo, one on a building across the street. The final bullet hit the limo, bounced off as it was armored, right? That's what it was meant to do, and entered the president's underarm, so his armored car shot him, entering his lung after grazing a rib. The bullet stopped 25 millimeters from his heart. So this fucker who couldn't aim actually almost killed the president because the armored car ricocheted a bullet off of it. All of the people hit with the bullet, including Brady, lived, though 2 sustained life-altering damage. Brady lived. The dude who it blew up in his head, he was in a wheelchair, and he did have trouble speaking. If you've ever heard the term Brady in terms of gun prevention organizations and such, it's because of his and his wife's work after the shooting. They got the Brady Handgun Violence Prevention Act passed in 1993. The Brady Bill, as it was often called, mandated federal checks and the 5-day waiting period. 18-year-old Jodie Foster took a year off from school before returning. She ended up with copycat stalkers, including one that showed up to play a play she was doing in college. He had a gun. He intended to kill her. But for whatever reason, he changed his mind after watching the play.
Oh my God.
And had he been somebody who could aim, that would have been it. Like, there was no protection there. In that year she took off, she had a bodyguard. She had to, because she was getting more threats. The Accused was her first role after finishing college.
Ugh.
Despite the movies she'd done as a kid, she was not considered a box office draw until after this film. In fact, Kelly McGillis was the big name in the cast. Once they cast her, they said, okay, we can go with no-name Jodie Foster then. And I'm like, really? No name after Taxi Driver and the little girl down the lane and whatever else she did? Really? So we all know how that worked out. Now she's Jodie Foster. Sources: Esquire, Newsweek, Hollywood Reporter, Cinemaholic, meaww.com, and Wikipedia. I use Wikipedia for the Ronald Reagan thing because the peripheral thing, instead of trying to hunt that down.
Jesus.
The movie almost didn't get released. It almost didn't get made, and then it almost didn't get released. And as Kelly McGillis pointed out in an interview, there weren't movies specifically about a rape. There's lots of books and movies that are about where the rape happens maybe as an inciting incident or something.
Yeah,
but this was the only movie at that time that was solely about a rape. And when they showed it to test audiences the first time, they hated Jodie Foster's character. They did not feel sorry for her. They did not empathize with her. She thought she was done. She actually was planning on returning to school to do like animal husbandry or something. It was her first movie back out there. And they went back and they did some editing. And then it became the movie it became. The thing is, they purposely, in the movie, unlike the real person, they do have her like dancing and flirting. And she's wearing more revealing clothing. She's wearing a mini skirt and like a tank top type thing.
Well,
and they did this intentionally, high heels. They did this intentionally because what had bothered them about the trial and stuff was obviously how people turned on the victim and the victim blaming that. This has become the example of victim blaming.
Yeah.
And so they wanted to show that even if she had done all these things, it still would not have been her fault that she was raped. That was kind of where they were driving, and it was a female producer, and I think, was it a female director? There were two females that really headed this and drove this project forward.
Well, in the trial, when you were talking about when she went into the bar, when she went into the back or into the pool room, and I'm visualizing this because anybody who's been in a bar in a small town, you know this setup, and if it was close to her home.
Yeah.
And she might have known.
This was just a neighborhood tavern. Yeah. This was clearly a place where her fellow Portuguese Americans hung out.
Yeah. And she knew the waitress. She probably felt safe. So when she walked in the back room, she acted a little bit flirtatiously with one of the people.
Right. And I also did put that in because that also does not give somebody a right to rape somebody.
Who said that?
I feel like there was a consensus on that one, and she admitted to it.
Okay, if she admitted to it, then
yes.
It doesn't make it okay, but I'm like, what'd she do? Say hello?
Right. That's because I had that thought too, but it did seem to be consensus. Okay. There was a little flirtation going on. It was a stranger. She was just having fun. Like, a flirtation does not guarantee you're going to have sex, consensual or otherwise. It doesn't give you a right to her body. It doesn't give you a right to lock her into a back room.
No.
And even if you are dancing in a sexy fashion, like in the movie, it doesn't give you a right to rape a woman on a pool table or a pinball machine.
It doesn't give you any right to her body at all.
So I read interviews with the stars and like the producers and stuff about making the movie too, just because it is an impactful movie. I've seen it twice. I don't think I ever need to watch it again. But it is amazingly well acted. She won an Oscar. And the men... So Jodie Foster had kind of removed herself from it, and she actually started worrying about how the men were taking it who were playing the rapists. It was very hard for them. One of them ran out in the middle of filming, and when he was followed to his trailer by one of the other actors, he was vomiting. Like, it was very hard on these guys to be playing these scumbags.
Well, good. That means there's a chance they were decent human beings.
Yes. And so Jodie Foster said, she was like, I told them they had to make it look real. This had to be real. And she said, I'm going to get up if you're not holding me down. Because I am going to fight you in these scenes. So they were that also probably didn't help, right? Like they were having to hold her down and do this. And so anyway, I needed to put that out there because this isn't about man bashing. It's about bashing horrible men.
Yeah. Specific men.
The poor men on one of them had a daughter, and he was just like, I would have had to kill him. Like just all the things that you would expect.
Yeah.
But the guys actually significantly suffered doing that scene and then having to, and they did a good job. I remember just fucking hating them. And the guy who played the defense attorney, whose name I cannot remember, or I went out
I was like, you're looking at me like I should know it. And I'm like,
he actually went and watched the movie in a regular audience behind a woman. And the woman yelled at one point when he said one of the awful things, like, you consented. this young woman in front of him yelled, "Fuck you, you motherfucker," you know. She just went off, and at the end of the movie, he leaned forward and said, "That was intense." And she turned around and said, "I fucking hate you," when she recognized him.
I knew someone who couldn't watch Danny Glover
in
anything after seeing him in The Color Purple.
Yeah. I already loved him when I saw that movie, and so that wasn't the first thing I saw. But like, I was talking to my husband, the first thing he ever saw, the guy from NCIS who plays the head inspector.
Oh, I don't ever watch NCIS.
Okay, he was well known. He's been Sexiest Man Alive and something.
Is it Mark Harmon?
Yes, Mark Harmon.
God,
the first thing he saw him in was playing Ted Bundy.
Oh, okay.
And he said, "I've never been able to view it," because I was like, why are you freaked out by Mark Harmon? You know, like, he was Ted Bundy first for him.
I can't think of one off the top of my head, but there are people who I've seen in roles that then it makes such an impression that then you see him in another role and you're like, ew, no, not a good guy.
Well, I watched the movie Silverado the other day, which is a Western that came out in the 80s, and it was Kevin Kline. Oh my God. I was like, what do you mean Jeff Goldblum's in a Western? I was so excited.
He can do anything.
He's a bad guy. That's what I did. I was like, wait, did he just do what I think he did? And Jeff's like, I believe he did. And I was like, no.
That was almost the tater tot noise.
Tater tots.
No, we're not going to explain that. Maybe next week.
But Scott Glenn is actually like one of the main characters in it, and all I can tell you about Scott Glenn, because I can't name one of the other movies, I saw him and I instantly assumed he was a bad guy. Because he always is. And I'm like, am I supposed to like him to Jeffrey? You know, I'm like, he's got to work harder. But it's a good character. I just couldn't get past that.
Cool.
Block with him for a bit. And I was like, okay, so I'm acknowledging he is a good guy. I kept waiting for him to like turn bad.
Right.
And I'm like, Jesus. Because he's always a bad guy.
Nice. Okay. So I'm going to spin the dial here on a different kind of woman. So Betty Lou Beets was born on March 12th, 1937 in Roxborough, North Carolina. And if you've been there, you know it doesn't matter how it's spelled. It's borough, not borough. It's not Hillsborough. It's Hillsborough.
It's like if you go to certain parts of the South, it's Vull, not Ville.
Yeah. So a childhood bout of measles left her... One thing said it left her deaf. I don't think she was completely deaf, but it left her at least hard of hearing. The family moved to Hampton, Virginia while she was young. And when she was 12... her mother was institutionalized. I could not find out for what. But Betty Lou was left in charge of her younger brother and sister. And her mother didn't remain in the institution for her whole life because there was some write-up I saw somewhere about she was married to her husband for like 150 years or something. Some unreasonable amount of marriage.
That's a long marriage.
It was. So in 1952, at the age of 15... Betty Lou married for the first time to Robert Franklin Branson. I was unable to find his age anywhere, so it didn't say that he was like a lot older than her, but I just couldn't find it anywhere. So after the first year of marriage, Betty Lou claimed Robert was abusive and left him. But after she attempted suicide, the couple reconciled, and they did remain married for 18 years and had 6 children together. So they got divorced in 1969. In 1970, Betty Lou married Billy York Lane, and this relationship was also turbulent and abusive. During one argument, Lane broke Betty's nose. She retaliated by shooting him twice in the back. She was charged with attempted murder until Lane admitted he had threatened to kill her first. Her claim of self-defense was hard to prove anyway because she shot him in the back. That's not self-defense if you're shooting them in the back.
If they're running away from you, even because you brandish a gun, then probably you're not supposed to shoot them.
Yes. They divorced in 1972. Then they remarried. Then they divorced again a month later. I just am trying to establish she had a lot of turbulent relationships. She started dating Ronnie Threlcold in 1973, but didn't marry him until 1978. They divorced 1 year later after Betty tried to run over Ronnie with her car. I don't know why I find that amusing. Because, so as I'm writing this up, and it was kind of stream of consciousness, but I put it in here. At this point, I have to digress for just a second. Betty reminds me of a woman I worked with named Sylvia. I once worked at, I'm not even kidding, Montgomery Ward Telemarketing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, there are people out there going, where? Doing what? We were both supervisors. And yes, I am the same age as dirt. So according to Sylvia, she had tried to kill, I believe, 3 of her husbands. One, she put ground glass in his food.
Oh.
She said she put a crystal goblet into the blender, ground it up, and then put it in his food. Didn't kill him. The other 2 she shot. I think there may have been a testicle involved in one of the shootings. And to the best of my knowledge, nobody died and Sylvia was never arrested. I wish I really wish, looking back, I had written down her story and followed up and researched it, because I'm like, it's too late now. It's too late now. I wonder whatever happened to her. Anyway, so and then I had to tell somebody who I worked with back then, by the way, I was thinking of you, and do you remember Sylvia? Do you remember her trying to kill her husbands? But back to Betty Lou. In 1979, she married for the 5th time to Doyle Wayne Baker, a retired Dallas firefighter. They weren't married long, and in 1982, she married number 6, Jimmy Don Beets. So, on August 6 of 1983, Betty Lou reported her husband missing. Police began searching immediately. I mean, there was no delay. She was like, oh my God, he didn't come home. And they just, because, white man, he's important.
Yeah.
They found no trace of him. Almost a week later, they found his boat adrift on Cedar Creek Lake near Redwood Marina. So on board, they found his fishing license, a life jacket, and his nitroglycerin tablets. Betty Lou verified that the items did indeed belong to him, but there were no other clues of his whereabouts. So police assumed he had drowned, and the lake was dragged with no result. So for 2 years, everyone just assumed that Jimmy Beets had gone fishing and fell out of the boat and drowned.
Okay.
Then police got a tip from a confidential informant that foul play had been involved. So in the spring of 1985, police reopened the case. They went right back to Betty, but got the full scoop from her son, Robert Branson. Robert said on August 6th, his mother told him to leave the house because she was going to kill Beets. Somebody told you, would you please leave? I'm going to kill your stepdad. All right. And leave. So he left. And when he returned,
I could use some boba.
I need to put gas in the car. I'll be there. When he returned, Beets was dead from 2 gunshot wounds. The 2 of them hid the body in a decorative wishing well in the front yard before calling the police. So here's how ballsy they were. They called the police. The next day, they planted Jimmy's belongings on his boat while the police were searching for him. That takes some chutzpah.
Yeah.
Or chutzpah.
Chutzpah.
So, an arrest warrant for Betty Lou was issued on June 8th. While she was in custody, authorities obtained a warrant for an evidentiary search of the Beets property. Jimmy Beets' remains were found in the garden in the front yard in the fake wishing well. And surprise, the body of Doyle Wayne Baker, husband number 5, was found buried in the backyard under a storage shed, complete with 3 bullets in the remains that matched the bullets that were in the more recently dead husband, which matched the gun Betty Lou had. Betty Lou's daughter, Shirley Stegner, came forward and confessed that she'd been recruited to help hide Baker's body in October of 1981. So here's where one of the
Maybe stop employing help.
Here's where one of the articles, in my opinion, went way off the tracks. It emphasized she attempted to claim Beets' life insurance money, which was about $100,000, and his pension benefits. And I'm like, yes, that's what you do when your spouse dies. Whether or not you've killed them,
right? That stuff exists
normal.
For a reason.
That is very normal. The article gave this air of being scandalized that a year after his death, she tried to sell his fishing boat.
Why
And
wouldn't
I'm
she?
like, why wouldn't you? Why, if your spouse is dead, why wouldn't you try to claim the life insurance? And it never said Betty Lou went fishing. She might have hated that boat. She might have said, what the fuck am I going to do with this boat? I don't need it. I'm going to sell it. They do that when a woman tries to claim life insurance. Oh my God, she's trying to. What was she supposed to do? Say, no, I don't need the insurance. I killed him. That's
Never you mind about that insurance.
Yeah. So anyway, when she went to trial, 2 of her children testified against her, even though they did confess to being involved in covering up the crimes. She tried to throw both of those children under the bus and say that they'd killed the men. But she was convicted and given the death penalty for the murder of Beets. Because of that conviction and sentence, she was never tried for the murder of Baker.
Gotcha.
So during the trial, it was really kind of bizarre. During the trial, she claimed she had been abused since she was a child, but no evidence of abuse was presented. It wasn't used as a defense. So in February of 2000, Betty Lou was put to death by lethal injection. She did not make a final statement, nor did she request a final meal. She was 62 years old, had 5 children, 9 grandchildren, 6 great-grandchildren. Her body was cremated after her death, and her ashes were scattered over her mother's grave. So this all took place in Texas. So she did issue a statement when she was sentenced. My time is running out, and the state of Texas will pick up where my husband left off. While the Texas law enforcement out there did nothing to help me, it is now legal for them to finish the job. But there's no record of her ever reporting abuse. So I don't know how they failed her.
Right. Because there was, it's conflicting, right? Because
yes,
maybe you didn't go to the doctor or anything ever and have that. Maybe you never did try to report it, and I can get why you would do that. At the same time, there is no proof that she wasn't just somebody who was habitually.
Yeah.
Once is one thing. Multiple times, and the attempted, the glass in the food. I can't believe she got into that many. I understand that people abused tend to keep going back to abusive related, but that's a lot. Where she just kept trying to kill him. I think she was just a black widow.
She shot her husband in the back.
Yeah, I think she was
tried to run one over with her car. I mean, it's so.
Yeah,
she did have her supporters.
I mean, did her kids? Her kids should have witnessed abuse if there was abuse.
That's right, and there was no testimony I could find anywhere from them.
Then I can't.
And her supporters pointed out that she was convicted before battered women syndrome was widely used as a defense in court and before states began commuting sentences of victims of domestic violence.
But it also, battered women syndrome does not extend to trying to kill ones that didn't. That's the issue.
It just was,
it should be a one-off type of defense.
Yes, it definitely should be. But it was the craziest story because it started with when I first came across this, it was the story of Beets. And it was how he went missing and they were looking for him and there was no trace of him anywhere. And then all of a sudden, some evidence came in and they reopened the case. And it turned out not only had she killed this husband, but a previous husband. And look at all the other husbands.
Like anonymous tip.
It was her son.
Either her friend or her kid, right?
It was her son who turned her in.
All right, because that's why I was like, it's got to be one of the people that was involved.
Yeah,
that was probably like, okay, I'm not.
How could you? That would be so hard to live with.
Yeah.
I mean, and he did help her hide. Two different children helped her hide.
Moms have a lot of power over their kids, though. As in to emotionally influence.
That's
them,
true. That's true.
I mean by that.
And I'm like, I don't think my children. Then I thought, no, think about your children. Okay, I will say, if I shot their father, they would not help me cover it up. I have no reason to shoot their father. But, if I called, I have a group of people I could call if I was in trouble. It's a short list, but an effective one. That's all you need.
That's all you need.
Do you know Shannon?
You don't need a whole entire mob.
You just need to know Shannon. Because I have people who would show up, and I have people who would actually be useful.
Well, thank you. I
You fall into both camps.
think. There we go.
You would show up and you would be useful. So my sources were medium.com. I get a lot of leads off of Medium, but they really hype up one way or another. They were the ones who were like, can you believe she tried to collect it? Yeah.
That's what I found with like All That's Interesting and Ranker is that they're good starts.
Yes.
But that
And then
I tend to find a lot of things that clash with what everybody else has said and a lot of inaccuracies and blown up things.
Yes. Thecrimemuseum.org, Wikipedia, of course, and thelineup.com.
Do you know what's annoying, though, is that I need to just go straight to Murderpedia and search, because the thing I like about it is it's basically an aggregator of actual articles about the people, but it does not come up for me in searches first. I don't know if it's being, like, pushed down, because...
I don't know, because I'm not seeing it as often either lately.
Yeah, it's annoying, because then I'll be looking for... A lot of times I find it when I go start doing the image searches for the Instagram posts, and then I click on one, it takes me to Murderpedia, I'm like, God damn it, they're in there. Of course they're in there. And I just don't think to, like,
they
search
always
there
are.
First.
And sometimes...
Wikipedia is paying some... Okay, Wikipedia is doing something that makes it pop up as the first search every single time if it's got a...
Yes. And Wikipedia...
Like, am I donating money for them to pay more money to be at the top of the thing? So maybe I don't donate anymore.
The thing I like about Wikipedia for doing research like this is it generally, I'm not going to say always, but it generally has a very reliable timeline. So a lot of times, because I don't always
sometimes I'll use it if I'm getting confused by the other articles, and I'll go and kind of run through it there. But also, I like that they have the footnotes with sources to, again,
and you can go
actual
there
articles
and get more stuff. Because sometimes I'll come across an article, like not always on Medium, but you'll come across an article about something, and I like what the article says, but I'm like, that's not the way I want to order the story, because some of them just jump in the middle. There's a body at the bottom of the driveway, and I'm like, fuck that. I want to know whose driveway it is. Why do I care? Yeah, too much writer in me, I guess. I want chronological order.
I have much better luck with older newspaper articles than current ones, though. I just really think journalism is dead in a lot of ways. But anyway, thanks for listening.
Who knows what we'll come up with for next week?
I mean, I already do, but...
Well, no, I meant for our chit-chat at the beginning.
Oh, God. Yep.
Some of our conversations...
Peace and luck to all.
I don't know why peace and light to all is that funny to me. But thank you.
Check us out on buymeacoffee.com/MM Mayhem if you want to support the show financially in any way.
Woot, woot.
One-time donation as little as $1 a month. And there are perks.
Yep.
And thanks for listening.
Yes, and we will talk to you next week.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you for listening to Mysteries, Monsters, and Mayhem.
Find us on Facebook and Instagram or at our website, mysteriesmonstersmayhem.com.
Please like, rate, and review, follow, and share wherever your favorite podcasts are downloaded.
Thank you for listening and supporting our podcast. We'll be back next week with more shenanigans.